providing the board with accurate information.
No, that's not what I'm saying at
Well,
all.
then, clarify your statement to Mr. Snell.
Okay, Mr. Snell.
Please, Mr. Snell, would you please express exactly what Mr. Loeb said?
Mr. Loeb told me that Dick Kastner needs to quit lying to us.
Dick, please. That was never said.
Yes, it was, Bob.
No. I said that if there's a cost, the contractor gets paid for not putting the terrazzo down. He does get paid for not putting it down, is what I said.
What's that have to do with the question, Mr. Lowe? If you have proof that Mr. Dick Kastner is lying, then I want you to put it on the table now.
Mr. Snell told me that there wouldn't be a charge. The contractor putting the terrazzo down would not get paid for his profits. I was told that he would.
Your question, so never mind. Move on. Take the vote.
Thank you.
Am I correct in saying that when Lobar was talked to, they said that that this outfit that puts down the terrazzo, they use them extensively, and that they was going to negotiate with them and say, let this one go, and we'll make sure you still do our floors, and we'll have more work for you. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that may have been said.
I mean, they was going to attempt to get those dropped, am I right?
Yeah, that was the original intent. Whether that happened or not, there's no way.
And I realize that, but when I made the statement that they wasn't going to charge, it was the statement that Lobar was going to do everything they could to work with us and have that company overlook this project. And Mr. Ruffin, I agree with one thing you said.
What's that?
We need to start thinking about the students. And we need to think about all the students, and that includes elementary students. And I do believe health over an auxiliary gym is more important to me.
I think you missed my point. You might have missed it when I said that nobody on this board denies that a considerable amount of work needs done in the valley. Okay? We all agree on that. All right. The original plan.
We also agree
option
that we
five-
need money.
The original plan, option 5, was to take $5 million to the valley. Okay. Your plan, what you call Project Unity, was really. The original was $5 million.
No, where it come from?
Where it come from?
Look at the paper.
Your plan is $3 million, okay? And by the time we get done paying all the money out that has been wasted on stopping the project for 3 months, only to find out that we were wrong, and we've got restarted. The lawyer figures everything involved that I mentioned right now is over $200,000. We'll climb considerably. By the time we're done paying off all that money, how much do you expect to actually have left to take out of the valley?
Exactly. Scott, could you help us out here? I'll try. I'll refer back to the question I asked you before. Are the costs going to eat up the savings?
With respect to our fee and what we're going to charge for our redesign, no. It all depends on, actually, it all depends on what you end up approving. If you approve nothing, then obviously our costs will exceed it. Our estimate was, for the items we were investigating to bring before the board for discussion, was $2.5 to $3 million. Whether we'll get there or not, once again, those are estimates. We'll work through that process as we speak. But answer the direct question, our fee will not exceed the cost savings we're pursuing.
All things considered, your fee is only a small part of it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Just real quick to Mr. Lowe, there is valid comment in the, in a bidding process, you get competitive nature, of course, with the contractors on the job. You're not getting dollar for dollar for these changes. That is valid.
Thank you.
Just the terrazzo flooring, the savings on that was,
$418,860.
and what is the profits on $418,860?
Referring to the contractor.
Yes.
We don't see that part of the breakdown.
But
So in other words, we basically see what the credit was for the terrazzo and what the add was for the court style flooring. All we have to compare that to, once again, is the original schedule of values, and the breakdowns there, as far as what profits included in that, what they might have been paying their subcontractor who was already contracted with them, that we're using. We don't have that information.
It's an unknown, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
But it'd be worthwhile spending $100,000 to save $400,000, wouldn't it?
I would say our time spent was minimal on that, maybe less than $10,000 worth.
Dick, you've been in the business a long time. The the savings don't equal the profits, correct?
I'm not sure.
The $418,000 in savings on that change order, they definitely wouldn't have $418,000 profit.
That's a safe thing to say, yes.
Ron, I agreed with the terrazzo deletion.
That's just one thing, Bob. That's just one of them.
I'll say something about it itself.
With respect to the flooring that we're talking about, it sounds like people think I said two different things. There was a statement made, I think maybe even more than once, that Bilbao would try to work with their terrazzo subcontractor, because we're going to basically let all of it out. There will be none left. Terrazzo Mosaic, Manhattan, PA, and they are regular. And that is a statement that likely was made. Whether I made it or not, I don't know. But it's certainly something we would encourage them to do. Okay, we deal with women as well, all the time. But to Bob's question, if you remember, we had an interim look that we were looking at polished concrete flooring, rather than going to the UPO floor that we ended up voting on. In the course of doing that, of course, again, that's knocking out all the terrazzo. And my understanding from that, from Lobar, was that they ended up basically giving a fee to the terrazzo subcontractor to help them walk away. Okay, so kind of everything we've talked about here is what happened, but it's just two different conversations. That's all.
And you don't know what that fee was.
I don't.
Scott, do you know what the original, in the original contract, I realize it was $418,000 savings in terrazzo flooring. Do you recall what the original cost of that was, the cost of that was in the original contract?
Well, we didn't have a bid breakout for that, so there'd be no way of knowing. The only thing we did have, if you recall, was the alternate to add, the base bid essentially on the second and third floors was VCT in the corridors. We had an add alternate to put terrazzo in lieu of VCT. So that's the only value that is known. We do have the schedule of values
motion is to go back to the original high school additions and renovations plans, except those change orders previously approved for the project.
Minus the Terrazzo.
Previously approved.
All right.
Mr. Hagemeyer.
No.
Mrs. Johns.
No.
Mr. Conkle.
Yes.
Mr. Lowe.
Yes.
Mrs. Marriott.
Yes.
Mr. McCleary.
No.
Mr. Ruffey.
Yes.
Mr. Snell.
No.
Mrs. Wright.
No.
Mr. Snell, would you make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve a change order in the credit amount of $18,790 to Lobar Incorporated to provide chain link fencing and little decorative fencing at the practice field, stadium entrance, and north end of the stadium.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Secretary, you do a roll call vote.
Mr. Hagemeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Conkle.
No.
Mr. Lowe.
No.
Mrs. Marriott.
No.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffey. Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Snell, I'll make one more motion, please. I'd like a motion to approve a change order in the credit amount of $12,100 to Lobar Incorporated to eliminate painting of storage and mechanical rooms.
Questions or comments?
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagemeyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns. Mr. Conkle.
No.
Mr. Lowe.
No.
Mrs. Marriott.
No.
Mr. McCleary.
Yes.
Mr. Ruffey.
No.
Mr. Snell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Just now I have a question. You shot down, Lillian, you did, majority board, just shot down a motion to put badly needed auxiliary gym into this new project. In place, we'd like to keep a 1931 building that we have no use for. When is this board, if ever, going to put the needs of the students first instead of the nostalgia that some people want to hold on to forever? When are we going to start looking forward, stop looking back? It should be quite obvious that when this board is no longer and a new board comes into place, they will do that. They will have the sense, they will have the vision, they will have the foresight that they will place an auxiliary gym somewhere in this building. It will not be as well placed because it's not in these original plans now. It will be done at a higher cost. The 1931 structure will be torn down by the next school board. My question is this, you know what? I'm sick of it, I'm fed up. When are we going to do what's right for the students and serve their needs first? I mentioned 40% of them are engaged in athletic activities. Isn't that important? I mean, doesn't that matter? You know, what does matter?
Mr. Ruffin, I'd like to bring your attention to an article, May 7th, 2013, where you were running for school board director, and you stated, as a school director, you would consider both what is necessary for the district and the taxpayer's pocketbook.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. And my point is,
My
It'll be
point
done
is,
later
I'm
at a higher
speaking
cost
now. I'm
because we
speaking
didn't,
now.
because you and your group that followed you so blindly didn't do it.
I am speaking.
I'm speaking. Okay? You cut me off.
No, I didn't.
It will be done later at a higher cost. That's my point.
Fine, you happy with that?
No, I'm not talking to you.
I'll take your point, we got to move on, we have another presentation. The vote's been taken, it's not gonna happen right now. Okay, you made your point, you want the gym.
That's
Okay,
unfortunate.
you made your point.
That's
All right.
unfortunate.
Everybody here?
You
He
would
made his
prefer
point.
the gym over the health of elementary students.
The money's going out to the valley. What I'm saying is,
When is the money going
what
out?
is the
When
cost?
is the money going out to the valley, Mr. Ruffin?
what's the cost of the 1931 section, and what is the cost to maintain
The
that
savings
building?
is 700 and approximately 701,000 in savings. Read what's in front
Are
of
you
you.
talking about saving the money to not tear it down? $700,000 to not demolish it? The 1931 section? What's the cost to maintain it?
Mr. Snell, we're going to get back on the agenda. The vote's been taken. Mr. Ruffins made his point. We have other business to conduct, okay?
Scott, you think that if you want to put over You now have a presentation by Reynolds Building Solutions. They did a study in the valley to basically see if things that are needed done at the valley, if the energy savings per year would pay to have the needed things done at the valley.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Rob Strickler with Reynolds. As so succinctly stated, we did a study at the Valley. We were asked to come out and take a look at the building and determine whether or not an energy savings project could be done there that would help finance a significant part of the construction. And so that is what we're here to present this evening. Before we get into that, though, I didn't want to assume that everybody knows. Sorry. Apologize. I thought I was loud enough that everybody could hear me anyway. But I didn't want to assume that everybody here knows who Reynolds is. Some of you may or may not be familiar with this. So just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about who we are. As I said, my name is Rob Strickler. I'm Director of Business Development with Reynolds. I've been with the company for 16 years. With me, I have Rick Evans. He's the President of our Energy Services Division. Rick has over 30 years of experience in a variety of construction, MEP, engineering, design, and energy projects. So Rick is the gentleman who walked through the building with me and did the evaluation. So he is going to speak a little more to that in a moment. But Reynolds companies, really, K-12 construction is what we do. About 80% of our projects here in Pennsylvania on a year-to-year basis are with schools. We have over 100 employees in various disciplines, and we're headquartered in Harrisburg with branch offices in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Maryland. Some of the things we do for our clients, energy services, as we're here to talk about this evening, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, design, engineering, commissioning, construction management, and heaven forbid, fire, water, and wind damage restoration. My final slide here in the early going is this map of Pennsylvania. Shows a whole bunch of little R's. Those are all projects that we've done in the area. Some non-K-12 projects we're working on right now in the area are the Williamsport Airport, as well as some projects with River Valley Transit. So we know school construction. We've done it since 1994. Over 200 projects worth more than $2 billion. So we come at this from a long-standing history in the West. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Rick. He's going to talk a little bit about the building itself.
Thanks, Rob. As Rob mentioned, several weeks ago, we were invited out to take a walk through the building, take a look. Just going to spend a couple minutes going over our findings and some recommendations for it. First place we always start when we do a project like this is with benchmarking the energy use. If you're very quick, if you look at the very top of the blue and red chart there, that's the average school in Pennsylvania. The lower chart is Loyalsock Elementary School. Basically what this chart is telling us is that the school is relatively energy efficient as it is. So it's not using a ton of energy. So the short answer to can energy pay for the entire renovation? No, it can't. Can it help pay for it? It can pay for some of it. But there's a lot of other benefits we're going to talk about to this methodology. It's very, very cost effective. Basic building, on the brick exterior, the windows were replaced in 1989. The double pane are actually in pretty good condition. The exterior doors look quite good. The roof was replaced within the last 3 years. So the building envelope is actually in very good condition. And that's good news because that's expensive stuff. So it's certainly going to bring the cost down. What that does though is it shifts our interest to the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems and some of the interior architecture of the building. And that's where the needs really are. When we look at the heating and air conditioning system, it was installed in 1989. Roughly 26 years old. It's beyond its useful life, so yeah, it's in poor condition. Some of the terminal units are from the original 1960s building. Some were replaced in 1989. Controls are pneumatic, which is the old compressed air type system, not very effective. There's an air handler under the stage for the big multi-purpose area, and you have some selective air conditioning throughout. In the library, some computer rooms, and the offices, so not a lot of air conditioning in the building. Our recommendations would be to install a new heating plant and terminal equipment, as well as a direct digital control system. We'd also like to evaluate switching from fuel oil to propane. Propane has two options. It's less expensive, and the type of boiler you can put in is much more efficient than a fuel oil boiler. So there would be savings from doing that. One of the options we looked at as we're going through is a dedicated outside air system. And the reason we were looking at this is there's significant humidity problems in the building. Now, this system, while it's not a full-blown air conditioning system, will dehumidify the building quite effectively. We've installed them in multiple districts throughout Pennsylvania. The districts have been very happy with the results. So for a cost that's less than full-blown air conditioning, we can put in this dedicated outside air system, get some good dehumidification in the building, and we can really improve the indoor air quality. The electrical system is the original from the 1960s building. It's way past the end of its useful life, and definitely should be replaced. Even with the addition, it was not increased in size, so it's really being pushed to its limit, and it has significant age, so we would definitely look at putting a new electrical service in and replacing the older panels and the panel feeders. The clock and PA system is original. It's still working. That would be more of a laundry list item that we would look at if we were to carry this further, whether we want to do that or not. Interior lights can be converted to T8. They're pretty energy efficient. LEDs would be more efficient. We'd have to look at whether there's a payback for that or not. The exterior lights are a mix of metal halide and halogen. They're not as efficient, so we recommend replacing those with LEDs. So our recommendation here is, again, new electrical service, replace all the panels in the old original building and the panel feeders, replace the fire alarm system, emergency generator. Optional, but recommended would be replace the central clock and address systems, and then look at upgrading the lighting systems to LED. So some of the other items that we looked at, the building has an on-site well and septic system. The toilets are original high flow toilets. Some of the finishes, the casework's in fairly rough condition inside the classrooms that could be looked at for replacement. Some door hardware doesn't meet ADA code for the classrooms. Look at replacing that. It does have some security cameras. They are functional. The backside of the building has significant moisture and humidity issue. There's ponding back there, and we have not addressed that as part of the study. It really kind of falls outside the parameters of an energy project, but it's something you might work with your architect to come up with some type of solution to relieve some of that ponding back there. Ceiling tiles, again, they're sagging because of the humidity in the building. I recommend changing those out. There is asbestos floor tile in the building, but it's in very good condition. That stuff lasts a long time. There's really no harm from it being there. So that would probably stay. And there was also some laminated beams that sag under the, again, falls a little bit outside the scope of an energy job. We have not addressed that as part of the project, but I wanted to state it here. Currently, what you have to do is go up and shovel the snow off the roof and get heavy snow. So our additional recommendations would be install ADA and low-flow toilets. Now, again, you're not paying for the water or your sewer, but there is an indirect cost because the fixtures put a heavy burden on your well system. They put a heavy burden on your septic system. New fixtures reduce the water usage by about 60%. We take that load off those systems and prolong the life of them. Replace the casework throughout the building, look at interior, some of the interior doors will definitely need at least refinished and the hardware on them. We'd like to look at painting the door frames, just kind of give the building a fresh look to it. So in our analysis, we broke it into two sections, really what we're calling the base project, and that is the bare minimum that we saw that you really need to do to get the building functioning again. That's the HVAC system. The plumbing upgrades we talked about, the electrical is certainly a definite that needs to be done in the building, and then there's some general construction related to that. If we have to tear out ceilings, we have to put them back to install this work, so there'll be a little bit of general construction associated with that. That's roughly a $3 million project that we just finished. A couple of other alternate items that we think should have significant consideration here. The dedicated outside air system that I spoke about that would provide the dehumidification and significant improvement in indoor air quality. Casework, door hardware, central clock PA, and LED. Again, these are laundry list types items, and you can pick one or the other. That would be an initial $1.2 million, bringing the project total up to about $4.3 million. One thing I will say about that, I think that's a conservative number for the work that's shown right there. As we dig into these, other things tend to show up. I think that the project could be done for the $4.3 million that would cover all of those contingencies. So I did mention that, one step back. There's a lot of studies that have been done on classrooms, classroom environment, and pattern-enhanced learning inside of a building. And there's 4 predominant factors that do that. The classroom needs to be comfortable. And the classroom needs to have good indoor air quality. It needs to be quiet, and it needs to have good lighting. And if you've addressed those 4 items, your building's doing about as much for education as you can do. And this project would leave you with all 4 of those items addressed very, very well, particularly in the $4.3 million project with the DOAS system, creating a lot of comfort there. So we've really addressed the primary factors there. I don't want to portray this as being a complete renovation because it's not. It's more like a very large-scale maintenance project. Honestly, the building's been maintained quite well over the years. For the most part, it's in pretty good condition, other than the systems we pointed out here. Now, I also mentioned that energy is certainly not going to pay for this entire project. It's not. But there's a lot of other benefits to this project delivery method. And I want to let Rob talk a little bit about those advantages and how they might help the district.
Yeah, so as Rick said, you know, we're showing anywhere from about $9 million to roughly $9,000 to $15,000 a year in savings. Obviously, that's not going to pay for the project. But we do feel that the performance contracting method has some significant benefits that would warrant further consideration for this project. And so that's what I'm going to finish up with here. Really, I think there's a lot of benefits to this approach for a school district. One of the key ones is single source accountability. You have the same firm involved that's designing it, it's building it, commissioning it, and then helping you operate it the whole way through. So there's no potential for finger pointing or saying, you know, my subcontractor got held up because of that guy or that guy. So there's none of that can be done. There's no upfront design costs. You know, with a typical project, you'll hire an architect or an engineer and you pay them to design, and that's fair. That's the work that they're doing. With this process, though, we take all that risk. If we develop a project and come back to you and we're grossly off budget, you can pull the plug and send us packing, paying us not a penny. But if we develop a project that comes in within that budget, then we get paid for that design work and the construction that we're going to be doing. The total project cost can be cut a lot due to the efficiencies of the design-build approach, and really it's the ability to negotiate that final scope and price. Unlike a normal traditional design bid build, you're not bound to either accept or reject only the low bids that come in. You have the ability to work with your ESCO partner to figure out and modulate that scope and price to fit what you need it to be. And then this is one that, well, you know, school districts always love. There's no change orders. You know, the discussion you guys had with Crabtree is great, and Crabtree always does a very good job in monitoring their change orders. But with this process, we as an ESCO or any other ESCO that you may work with cannot come back to the district and say, you know what, we missed these two light fixtures over here. We need another $2,000. We missed this piece of electrical switchgear. We need another $25,000. If we miss it, we own it. We can't come back to you and ask for more money. You know, really with the type of project we're referencing here, I think this is a really effective delivery method because you're able to do a much more surgical replacement. In a typical project, your engineer is going to come in and say your HVAC system is shot, everything needs to be replaced. And so that's what they're going to go ahead and design. In this type of model, we'll go in and we'll do a much more detailed investigation to say, okay, the terminal equipment's shot, the central plant equipment's shot, but your piping is still good. So we're going to keep that and reuse that. Or if we find out that it's bad, then we go ahead and move forward with that process. But not until we do that investigation, and certainly not without a good reason. Really, I know this sounds a little crazy sometimes, but this project could be completed over the summer with little to no impact to the educational process. You know, we plan these projects out and get everybody ready so that the day school is out, our contractors are there the next day, go into town, and they're done and out before the kids get back into school. We've done it on projects this size, we've done it on projects significantly larger. Last summer, we completed a project at the Chamonix School District in Bucks County, where we completed about $20 million worth of work in 3 buildings over the summer. Kids left, we started construction, before they got back, we were done and out. So it's really a significant benefit. Talking about contractors and subcontractors again, you know, you're sometimes stuck with the low bidder in a traditional project. By selecting an ESCO partner, you've met the pre-qualification and public bidding requirements of a typical process. So we as a ESCO in the school district can sit down together and talk about what subcontractors we'd like to see involved in this process. And so it's still being bid, you're still getting all the advantages of a competitive bid process, but you don't have to accept a bid from any Tom, Dick, and Harry that can give you a bond at the end of the day. And then finally, you know, post-project, a lot of the burden oftentimes falls to the facilities director to commission and operate the building and figure out how everything works together. This type of process gives him a lot of support, years of support, where we're standing side by side with him, working through that process, making sure that the building runs as efficiently as possible, because as an ESCO, we have some skin in the game. If we guarantee some energy savings and it doesn't show up, at the end of the day, we have to pay the difference. So we're invested in the performance of the building and helping your facilities team do their job. So, performance contracting and guaranteed energy savings projects, that's just a lot of verbiage there telling you how the process came to be. What I really want to focus on is the red box off to the side. If this is something that you're interested in pursuing further, it can be a very simple process. You select an ESCO or an energy services company via an RFQ. They begin what is called the investment grade audit. And really, in layman's terms, what that is that's the design and bidding period during the project. The ESCO really digs in, design, does all the engineering, all the designs for whatever kind of energy efficiency measures you put together, and puts it out to bid, and comes back at the end of that process with what's called the Guaranteed Energy Savings Agreement, or GISA. That's the acronym they use. And that is the construction phase contract. And what you get in that agreement is final construction cost, final savings cost, and the schedule. So you know exactly what it is that you're paying for, what you're getting, and when it's going to be completed before you sign on the dotted line. Following that, you move into the construction period. As I said, it can be as short as 3 months. And once that wraps up, you roll right into the commissioning and performance assurance period. So, as I said, it can be a fairly short process. One of the points I wanted to make that I missed was an investment grade audit period that corresponds with the bidding and design. Typically, it can be done in as little as 3 months rather than a full 6 to 8, 9 months for a traditional design bid build process. So that's the conclusion of our presentation. If there are any questions, we'll be happy to entertain them.
Start to finish.
Start to finish. The advertising process and selecting and collecting RFQs is probably 1 to 2 months. Investment grade audit, as I said, about 3 months. Construction,
You're talking about what do you call it?
the GISA.
That's right.
Yes,
I
yes.
thought we didn't really qualify.
No, the energy savings does not pay for it, but you can still utilize that process. It's just a different delivery method, and you're taking advantage of some of the other benefits.
So back to just the ballpark numbers. Permitting to finish, 6 months?
For the construction only,
Everything.
everything, start to finish, selecting the ESCO, you're looking at less than a year.
And actual construction time will be the summertime?
Yes, and then I have that, within that year is that whole construction process as
So
well.
I mean, the construction can be completed during the summer?
Absolutely.
On the electrical, you said the electrical's maxed out. Is it maxed out where it's concerned right now? I mean,
I'd say your biggest concern is the age of the equipment. It's original 1960s electrical equipment. It's way beyond its useful life. So it's more than the age of the equipment. But certainly loading adds to the issues.
In terms of replacement parts.
Yeah.
And there were comments made by staff as we toured through the building that there were concerns about overloading the system at times. So they had to try and work with teachers and staff to work around it.
I think one thing I want to make sure of is what's there now in the case of an overload. Is it going to handle an overload kick out where it's
process of bidding the construction contract of the Loyalside Valley well. I'll go through the schedule. The project, I'll briefly describe the project. The well, of course, was drilled and the well itself was completed. So this project involves actually connecting the well to the water treatment, existing water treatment system in the school. So there'll be piping and water piping and electrical wire and conduit going from the building to the well. We'd be putting a submersible pump down into the well, and of course extending pipe and wire down into the well. Inside the building, there's an existing, again, water treatment system in a vault underground. So we'd be running the pipe and wire into the vault, and then plumbing up the piping to the new existing water system. We're going to put a new electrical control panel and wire that back to the electrical distribution. I can tell you, the electrical distribution is ancient there, that's for sure, no question. And getting even an old breaker is quite a bit more expensive than a comparable new breaker. We're going to leave the existing water system in place. I think it's important. It saves some money, than not to. There's nothing wrong with the existing system, actually, other than the well doesn't, well 3 doesn't have enough capacity. And the plan is to leave it in place and to run well 3. It's up to the school board or the operators would run well 3 a few hours a week to keep it exercised. But well 4 would be your primary water source. Well 3 will also run in the summertime just because the way things are plumbed up. So there's no reason, it'd be complicated to change that. There's no reason to change that. But it's definitely the lowest cost approach. Well 4 has a great amount of excess capacity that beyond what the school would ever need. So the schedule we have right now, we worked this out with Dr. Bowers and operations staff. We have a pre-bid meeting this Thursday, April 28th at 2:00 p.m. We're going to start off the district office, then continue out to the valley. And we've invited all potential bidders to attend the meeting, but attendance is not mandatory. The bid opening is scheduled for May 12th. I believe that's also 2 p.m. at the district office. The school board meeting that follows that is May 24th. We always want about a week or so to evaluate bids, and that does allow us a week or so that time to conduct that evaluation, interview references from contractors, do our due diligence. We would like to, the expectation is that the board could vote to award the contract at the May 24th meeting. And we'd like to issue the notice to proceed to contractors to start construction on June 6th. That's the first Monday after school is closed. The anticipated, well, the contract time is given at 60 days. And so that would put completing construction August 5th. There's nothing magic about August 5th, but other than it does, it's a couple weeks before school starts, just in case there were any, unforeseen circumstances. We have some time to still get the new well operating before school starts. That's just a summary. Any questions or comments?
Is there any requirement for the government to run so much water through the system before you guys can put it online?
They're not a quantity of water per se. It does need to be flushed, and that that's not a government requirement. We do have to disinfect it. So there has to be a chlorine solution put in the piping for a short period of time. Chlorine solution needs to be tested at a pretty high strength, much higher than you would use in your house or what they use in the public system. Has to sit for a period of time, and then that has to be flushed out.
Just give me a time frame.
Like a day or two.
Okay. Just out there.
Sorry. And,
is there anything you'll test the water? A final test will be done before the students are allowed to use it?
that's correct, yes. Yeah, back to life.
Yeah, Mr. Bass, is this project on schedule? You may be asking, I don't know if you're not. Is it on schedule, the original plan schedule?
Yes, it's on the schedule is always complete construction this summer.
Thank you.
Dr. Powers, did you pin down the weeks for
Yeah, we've shared communication with Britt, with my admin team, and we've been doing multiple communications back and forth just to make sure that we're okay with the evaluation. So we've all been in the loop with that now. So.
If I recall, I think Mr. Farrar said it was going to be August 1st through 5th, and we can discuss that. I don't think we need to prohibit construction then, but I plan to encourage contractors to at least do the outside work before then. I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, and last I talked to Darren and Craig both, because I've been communicating on both of their camps, they're comfortable with what we're seeing.
Is there only going to be one higher than the kindergarten?
There's one at Lighter, so I believe it's only in Patton, looks like that.
Well, the question I had on the email looks like it could have been 2 weeks, and that's why I was wondering.
Right. I believe it's.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have a presentation by Mr. Chris Waldrop of the Spectrum Alliance.
Hi everybody. First of all, I want to thank everybody for having us here. We're going to have a Spectrum Alliance for support. My name is Chris Waldrop. I'm the Vice President of the organization. This is the President of the organization, Kai Kelly. Natasha Steppe is our Treasurer, and our Secretary, Sarah Logue, who will be passing out just a summation of some research that I've done for you guys. All right. First of all, I want to tell you guys a little bit about me and about us and why we're here. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. So I'm a gay resident of Central Pennsylvania. I'm a blue-collar worker in my municipality. I'm a homeowner, and like I said, I'm the vice president of this nonprofit, which is a 501c3 designated nonprofit. There was a question about our mission statement, so I'm going to go ahead and read that to you guys. And it's a little bit related to, and I thank you for the work you're doing with the community to establish equality in business. So our mission statement is, as an organization, our mission is to foster safety, respect, and inclusion in our community by providing resources for discussion and education on matters affected by gender and sexual identity. Now, we strive very hard not to be a political organization. That's the whole reason we weren't at the election. It's not our business what Montoursville decides to do. That's Montoursville's business as far as I'm concerned. We're here to let the students know that the community is not against them. We're here to provide resources for those students. So what we're here to do today is just give a little bit of education about LGBT matters and the effects of discrimination and victimization on the school-age population. So usually, this is very different from the normal presentations we give, and I'm trying to change it up a little bit because I understand it's getting late. So pretty much high school is the most crucial time, one of the most crucial times in the development of an LGBT individual. Trying to figure out your identity as a heterosexual youth is difficult enough without having to throw in sexual identity, gender identity, how everybody around you feels about that. So I'm going to go through my experiences as a gay individual growing up in this area, in this community. Not specifically Montoursville, but in the Central Pennsylvania community. I'll try to be as quick as possible and hit the most important points. So I moved here when I was 6 months old, so I spent pretty much my entire life here. I was 5 years old when I figured out that I wasn't like other people. You know, I wasn't like my 2 older brothers, who were very masculine. I was much more feminine than them, and they noticed, and so did everybody else, and they let me know. So it was very early when I realized that things were going to be different for me. I started trying to figure that out when I was about 10 years old. I started realizing I felt differently than other people about specific people. In the meantime, I was teased my whole life. I was very introspective. I was very angry as a child. I was very sad as a child. So when I was about 10 years old, I started researching are there other people around there like me. I started realizing that I don't have the same attractions as my brothers. I don't have the same attractions as my friends. And I didn't know what to do about that. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know how to feel about it. But I knew it was bad and I knew it was wrong. The most popular insult when I was in school was gay. Everything was gay. You're gay. That's gay. So I knew gay was bad. So that's not what I was, right? I can't be that. That's wrong. So I started using, 13 or 14, I'm still doing research, trying to figure it out. Maybe I'm bisexual. The first time I used that term in my own head, I cried. It was awful. I didn't want to do that. That was terrible. I hated myself. I wished I could be somebody who was just like everybody else. I never wanted to be gay, bisexual, anything. I just wanted to be like my 2 older brothers. You know, I wanted things to be easy like they were. I'm not saying everybody has it easy, but I perceived my sexuality as what stopped me from having a good life. And the community told me that every day. Every day I went to school, all my friends reminded me that being gay or being bisexual or having a different sexuality than them is what made me miserable. It's what made me wrong. It's what stopped me from fitting in. It's what made me keep secrets. So I kept researching and I kept hiding. I kept hiding everything. I measured all my friendships. I measured every action. Every single action. Every word. Every step. My mind constantly running. Does he think this? Does she think that? Does my mom think this? Do my brothers think that? Does he hate me? Does she hate me? Do they think I'm a good friend? I'm trying to be a good friend. Do they notice I'm keeping something from them? All minutes of every single minute of every day, this is running through my head. I was miserable. I didn't sleep. I never slept. I was unwell. I didn't eat right. And again, I hated myself. Hated everything about myself. When I started using the word gay to describe myself, again, I cried. And those aren't the only tears I shed in my life. I cried all the time, but that word killed me. I hated it. And I hated it because everybody around me hated it. My family hated it. My friends, again, hated it. And so I hated it and I hated me. I tried very hard not to be gay. I tried so hard not to be gay. I dated a lot of girls. I even fell in love 3 times. All with women. But it didn't matter how much I loved them. There was no attraction. And that destroyed our relationships. Every time it destroyed our relationships. And every time it destroyed a relationship, it destroyed me. So, in high school, in the process of all of this repression, trying to hide everything, I couldn't bring myself to, I gave up all sports, because high school is when you have to start using locker rooms, right? Locker rooms were awful. Locker rooms sucked. If you can imagine all that going through my head every minute of every day, in a locker room, it was times 50. You know, you keep your eyes on the floor, you try and find a place to hide away, you try and change as quickly as possible. You don't talk to anybody. You get out as soon as you can. So I gave up sports. I played soccer and ran track my whole life, but in high school when we started using locker rooms, I gave it up. I started doing worse in school. I was always a straight A student, but I found that I just didn't have the motivation to do anything. Nothing for myself, because I didn't care about myself. I would stay up all night, help my friends with their homework, tell them my answers, help them study on tests, but I never did a single lick of my own work. Why? Because why? I hate myself. That's when I started considering removing myself. I figured if I wasn't around, I wouldn't bother anybody anymore. When you experience severe depression, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody around you. It affects your entire family. My parents were angry, they were frustrated. I fought with my dad every day. They didn't understand me, and there was no way I could tell them. Not a single way I could tell them. Why? Because everybody around me reminded me every day that it was wrong. So I couldn't talk to them, and they were frustrated, they didn't know what to do. And I got tired of fighting them. So I figured I'd just take myself out of the situation. I'm not going to go into details, but there were days, after I got my license, there were days when I just thought, that's a really steep edge on the side of the road. Kids die in accidents all the time. It's the first leading cause of death among youth. Kids die all the time in accidents. Nobody would know. Nobody would know. So there were a couple times, there were attempts I'm not going to go into the details of, and I hid them very well. Hid them from my parents very well. It's a very miserable time. And then my last relationship with a woman happened. She's an amazing woman to this day. We're very good friends. But I broke her heart. I broke her heart. Because every time she tried to get close to me, I pulled away. Excited. I knew, I knew. So I started talking to my best friends, and I was very methodical about it. This one's my best friend, but he's also the most religious, so he might be the most judgmental. This one I hang out with a lot, but I don't really know what he thinks about it. Every single relationship I started measuring, who can I tell? So I started with the friend that was farthest from me first, and I started telling people one by one. Well, eventually, I got close enough to tell somebody that I really cared about. Hey, I'm gay. That's not actually how it happened, actually. He was frustrated about things going on in his life, and he said, well, you don't have to deal with this. I said, well, you don't have to deal with being gay. That's how I came out. Eloquent, right? So, that guy decided I can't be in a relationship with my girlfriend anymore, so he broke us up. He got in between us, which was actually a good thing. Because I finally told her, I can't be with you because I'm gay. And she became the driving force for me to get my life back. So she said to me, Chris, I love you. I know what you're going through. Don't do this in high school. Don't do this in high school. How horrible is that? We can't do it in high school. Why? Because high school sucks. Because everybody is so judgmental and they're there with you all the time. And they don't have their own opinions yet. They're starting to form them, right? They're starting to figure it out. And they're very susceptible to everybody around. Very susceptible. What does mom think? What does dad think? I'm not challenging that yet. Wait till I go away. Move away from them. So she said, don't do it in high school. So I did. I moved away to college. I came out. It was the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had in my life. And go figure, my family was fine with it. There's still issues. I still struggle with depression. I'm still on medication every day of my life. And I still work very hard. I still work very hard on working against that. This is something process will be with me my entire life. It'll affect me my entire life. I see a counselor every week. I've struggled with alcohol dependency. I've struggled with terrible decisions. And I had terrible self-esteem issues, which I discuss with my counselor on a regular basis. That's ongoing and will be forever. I have to fight that mentality that was instilled in me in high school forever. This is why it is so crucial that we let our LGBT youth know that they're supported at a high school level. So I mentioned what the first leading cause of death among youth is. It's vehicular accidents. The second is homicide, and the third is suicide. Major depression and suicide is rampant among high school age students, among LGBT high school students. The rates are higher. The suicide rate among LGBT students is 2 times higher than it is for heterosexual students. For unsupported LGBT students, it is 6 times higher, 8 times rather, higher than the supported LGBT students. That's 16 times higher than the suicide rate for straight heterosexuals. I'm going to turn this over to Kai for a minute. Kai's got some things to tell you about the subject as well.
Hello everybody, I'm Kai. I'm going to stand over here so I can see everybody, or try to see it at least. I'm really nervous, so you're going to have to bear with me. They keep asking me to do this, and I don't know why. But I'm going to talk about my experience. As Chris said earlier, I'm the president of Spectrum. And I also went through a lot of trauma in my high school. But mine came from my own family. My mother was very, very religious. Certain faith, and she believed that if I was to do certain things, that I would burn in hell for all eternity. And she told me every single day. She psychologically abused me. She verbally abused me. She physically abused me. I was 14 years old. I had nobody, no one to turn to. I was by myself. And that's part of the reason that this group, that we exist, because we didn't have that when I was in high school. I started self-mutilating when I was 14. Started cutting every single day. You know, that pain that I felt constantly, that inward turmoil that I couldn't explain, I figured, you know, I might as well hate myself. I might as well take it out on myself. You know, I'll never be accepted by my family. You know, and for me, that was most important. I was raised with, you know, for what I thought, you know, great parents, you know, that worked hard. A dad that worked hard, you know, 5 brothers and sisters, and, you know, I had that great life, or so I thought. You know, for me, the reality of it was, my mother went after me one day, and threw me into a lamp, and told me that my child would never be gay. She would turn over in her grave before it happened, and she kicked me out at 14 years old. Like I said earlier, I had nowhere to go, and no one to turn to, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Trying to get emotional. Jeez. But you know, from that, a lot of strength has happened. You know, I continue to struggle with anxiety and depression. I still do to this day. I still question myself on whether I'm worth it or not, whether my life is worth it or not. You know, so when everything happened and we heard about, you know, the main concern for us was the students. That's the biggest thing. That's the only thing that I truly care about. Because I know what it's like to go through that and to hate yourself every single day. You know, I've attempted suicide at least 3 or 4 times, if not more. You know, I was that person that stuck a knife in my chest and tried to drive off with it. But for some reason, I'm still here. Still trying to figure that out. But, and you know, for me, like, it was every day. It was every day. You know, my dad, thankfully, was accepting, but he didn't understand it. They had no idea. You know, and I share that with you because, you know, we all know that life is not easy. You know, and I'm not just saying, just because I'm this way, it means that this way is better. That has nothing to do with what it's about. You know, a lot of the anxiety and depression that I dealt with in my high school years have carried throughout. And, you know, for me, it ended up taking my military career. Because mentally I was so unstable, they had to remove me from the United States Air Force. You know, and for me, I've always loved to learn. very, very academically gifted. I've always been. And I started to miss a lot of school because I don't want people to make fun of me. I don't want people to judge me. I get that every day at home. Why would I want to come to school and have it done 10 times worse? You know, and like Chris, you know, mine eventually led to alcohol and drugs. Because this is what I can do, and I can just fade away. That was my mindset, because I didn't care. I didn't care about me anymore because no one else cared about me. Why should I? You know, and like the biggest thing that I can say is I hated myself. I truly, truly hated myself. Probably in the last couple of years, I'm beginning to start dealing with a lot of these things. I'm beginning to care about myself. You know, but a lot of these things were ingrained early on for me. You know, it was not acceptable to be like this. And the biggest thing for me was religion. It was thrown in my face 24/7 every single day. I could quote certain whatever to you because it's been done to me in every way that it's wrong. You know, and in the midst of everything else as far as my anxiety and depression is concerned, the biggest thing for me was the fact that I was born a female and was living actively as a male, because that was another thing. You know, so as I came out as being transgender to my mother, who would not accept any of this, she basically slammed the door in my face. You know, and I tell you this because if only there were groups and people out there when I was young. You know, I feel like it could have saved me from a lot of different struggles, you know, and turmoil that I had to go through. You know, and the only thing that I can give you is my personal experience. That's it. I'm not going to come in here and tell you that I have a doctorate and I can do this and I went to school for this, because I didn't. I kind of happened to just fall into it some way or the other. You know, but for me, this is real, and this is every single day. People victimize, kids victimize, especially when it comes to LGBT, that community. There's suicides, there's people getting killed every single day. Every single day. And that fear is real. It's real in somebody like me. You know, every day I fight myself out, I'm going to leave the house, but it's going to be my last day. And why? Simply because of who I am. That's it. The person doesn't know me, they know nothing about me. It's because of who I am. So yes, I'm here. I'm here for the kids that I haven't met yet, and I'm here to stand up and say, you're not alone. You're not alone. We are here. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. I'm a lesbian. I knew I was a lesbian when I was 13 years old. Again, like Kai, I come from a very religious, conservative household. My family did not know for a very long time that I was gay, and I hid it. I hid everything about myself, who I was, who I liked. I could never be honest with them, so I created a life of secrecy for myself. Because of keeping secrets, I began self-harming. I did that for 7 years. And high school was not fun. I was bullied relentlessly because I had told a few friends, a few trusted friends, but then of course this high school word gets around very fast in high school when you tell somebody something about yourself. I was teased relentlessly, and it drove me to the point of saying, what's the point of living me? Who really cares about me? Family doesn't care about me. Friends don't care about me. Teachers don't care about me. No one cares about me. So I should just end it all. Why not? Tried this 2 or 3 times. And there was a support group at my school. However, it was not well attended. It was not well supported. And that slowly faded away from me. Like everybody else in our organization, I'm here for the kids as well. We care about you guys. I care about you guys. I don't want the same thing that happened to me, that happened to Kai, that happened to Chris, that happened to anyone in our organization to happen to you. Because I know how much it hurts. High school is the time in your life that shapes you. It's when you meet your best friends, the love of your life, decide what paths are going in your future. It's huge. And when you don't have that support, it can ruin your life. Or seem to ruin it. I've gotten past a lot of my issues. Again, I'm in therapy, I'm on medication, I've gotten past a lot of issues, but that deep-seated fear, hatred, and self-esteem problems, it's always going to be there. So if we can prevent anything that happened to us from happening to you, we're going to do it. And we care about you. That's what I have to say.
So again, we all experience similar things in high school. We're in our early to late 20s. We are still dealing with the effects of that. Excuse me while I find what I'm about to read. So somebody asked us why we're here. This is why we're here. This is a response from a student. What kind of community are we when students like myself must remain nameless to guarantee an equal chance at being heard? I do not expect Montoursville to become extremely accepting overnight. I do not expect to attend school in which I do expect to attend school in which I do not feel shame in discussing issues that are important to me. So what we do as an organization is we provide people with the opportunity to do that. We provide people with the support they need. It's shown that in schools where support programs are started, where safe zones are established, where GSAs, that's a Gay Straight Alliance, a peer-run organization, are established, the effects of suicidal ideation among LGBT youth, bullying among LGBT youth directed toward LGBT youth, victimization, the frequency of hearing words such as gay and faggot on a regular basis, that's all reduced by 20% just by instituting one of these programs. There's safe zone programs are being started up around the nation. It's very simple. It's what we're doing right now. We talk to you guys. We talk to the educators. We tell them these are the issues that LGBT youth face every day. Every day. And if that person stands up and says, I'm willing to be there to talk to these LGBT youth, simple, give them a sticker, put it on their door. It seems stupid, right? A sticker. But as that student walks down the hall and they see, that's my favorite teacher, and he doesn't have a problem with LGBT people, that kid suddenly has an outlet. When I was in high school, I didn't talk to my counselors about any of this. Did you? Did you? No. No. I talked to my counselors about scheduling college classes. And that's not to say anything about high school counselors. They're dealing with a lot. They don't have time for it. Unless you bring it to them, they don't have time to search through every student to find out if you're dealing with this stuff. But if their favorite teacher outwardly advertised, I'll talk to you. I would have to talk to my favorite teacher. And if I had someone, anybody, especially an adult, to talk to, when I was in high school, just to say, it's okay, you know? And when you leave this school, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna care if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're purple. Nobody cares. You can go out in the real world and find people that support you. If I had that in high school, it'd be a whole different story. So again, we're simply here to say to the board and to the members of Montoursville, you need to support your LGBT youth. Because they're here. They're here. They talk to me. They're here. They message our page all the time. They're here and they're scared. They're scared about what they're hearing. So tell them, as a community, tell them, we support you. We're here. That's all I have to say to you guys.
Mr. Wall. On behalf of the whole city, I want to thank you for enlightening, very
purpose of our organization, the very purpose of our organization, is to support students.
Thank you.
Schools and hold assemblies, talk to students.
We do offer those services. We've been in discussion with some members of the school district, and we are willing to do that for the Montoursville School District. That is ideally what we would like to spend most of our time as an organization doing. Right now, other than giving presentations, Kai and I have been going around speaking to social workers for trainings on, mostly we've been talking about how to deal with transgender policy and things like that, but we do go around and give presentations on LGBT matters, and yeah, and we can do safe zone programs. We can teach safe zone programs. It's something that's very easy. We have a curriculum for that. So yeah, we'd be more than willing to do so.
Mr. Snell, I need to bring something to your attention here that's been brought to my attention during the meeting regarding expenses for FBLA. It's not on the agenda. There's a certain amount of $6,000 that needs to be approved for them to attend the national. Okay, if this is something that they need within 2 days, it's not on the agenda, but we're going to need to approve that this evening.
I have not seen anything in our office. Was it emailed to Diana maybe?
I filled out the paperwork today.
I mean, we typically don't put action items on a work session. So she may be holding it for the May board meeting. Is it critical for tonight? We can certainly do that. Yeah.
Yes, it's critical for tonight. It's nothing that no one was at fault. It's just that our state conference was the 11th, 12th, and 13th. We did not find out until 11 o'clock on the 12th. We came back the 13th, and I filled out the paperwork. The initial deposit must be in by Friday, and the money has to be received by Friday. So really, I have to have the money sent by tomorrow morning if it's going to get to Jersey Shore by Friday.
So that's probably just the confusion. We typically don't do action items for work sessions, so that's probably the reason told or held. Probably didn't correspond to date. So, you know, if the board's willing to have that conversation, I think that's obviously a good idea.
I apologize for
That's okay. Not your fault.
Bill, I'll second it. You're making a motion.
I would make the motion to approve that expenditure tonight.
Questions or comments?
I have a question. What fund does it total money come from? Does anybody know where the money's going to come from? We have to approve it if we don't know where the money's coming from. I thought, don't you guys do like corporate sponsors or private sponsors, fundraisers, that kind of thing?
not for academic competitions, no.
Did you go last year?
Yes.
Who paid for that?
Any other questions or comments?
Due to a timeline, obviously, it's not able to be put on the agenda for whatever reason. The motion would be to approve a $6,000 expenditure so that FBLA may travel on to national.
How much money is due Friday?
$1,200.
Look, board members, if I may, we have done this sort of thing in the past. We have talked in length about developing policies as to how much we do fund in terms of competitions. That's something I would certainly recommend this board to have in the future. So we have those procedures and policies in place. We typically pay for regionals and states, but on occasion our students do well enough to make it to the national level, and we always end up having this conversation. I highly recommend this board to allow these kids to go. There's been lots of costs brought to this board without the question of where we're going to pay for it. To raise it now, I'm not sure what that's all about. But we are here for kids, obviously. Our kids perform very well, and they certainly should have this ability or this option to go forward and compete at the national level. Although I do think that in the future we ought to have this conversation and put a very clear procedure or policy in place as to what competitions we do pay for and which competitions we do not, and that what the expectation is on these groups in terms of their own funding and their resources and those kind of things. But certainly wouldn't want to hold these students hostage because that process hasn't been carried out yet. Just my recommendation.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. I would like to ask one question, though. And I agree with Dr. Bowers, we should hold these students up for the nationals, but when we passed for them to go to states, I questioned what FPLA's policy was on fundraising to help support this, and has any change been made on that since that time?
They are actually working on fundraising, and actually, we are willing to fundraise a portion. In fact, that $6,000 did not include the $300 initial deposit. So we are paying $300 per student. I would like to talk to, I'd like to have a dialogue with you about that. I feel that really we have individual accounts. It's a business organization. We have a treasurer. We have individual accounts. Students can either pay or they can fundraise. It's very difficult to ask a student to fundraise for a different student to go to a state or national competition. That's why we have individual accounts for them. I understand if it was for a field trip to New York City or for that type of trip, I can see having a whole group fundraise. We do fundraise for the Sadison Fund, for the Twilight Foundation, for all of that is done as a group, but we do have the individual accounts just because we feel that that's a fair way to have people who fundraise get to use their money for the competition. I understand if you think that they should pay a certain portion of it, they have a choice as to whether to fundraise or not. We have had candy bar fundraisers. We've sold cards this year as fundraisers. So there have been fundraisers available to the students, but we have not changed the policy to make everyone fundraise for the entire group.
Board members, if I can just add one more thing. You remember, this is a national competition. We don't know from year to year if we're going to have kids qualify or not. So we do try to budget for everything, but you know, we don't know from year to year if any, and certainly how many would qualify to go. So it's really it's a moving target in terms of budgeting for things like that. So that's why I think this board needs to talk about the procedures and policies in the future.
That's fine. I just, it just seems to me that and it's worth talking about, but it just seems to me that when you get to where you know somebody's going to states, then there ought to be something put in place to help those students and the taxpayers chip in on that. I mean, even if through the year they fundraise for themselves, but when they get to that point where we're getting close to states and possibly and luckily through well, not luck, but through hard work are going to nationals. That way's something to be in place.
And I agree that it's a business organization and they should be able to raise some funds. I don't know, like I said, they each contributed $300 to their conference. We talked about trying to raise additional funds for that conference. I just don't know how much one person can fundraise for that unless.
Oh, and I agree, but even though these 3 students are going to nationals, I'm sure the rest of the club has it forward for the rest of the year. I mean, so I mean that it could be a group effort towards when you're coming up to states and nationals. It's just something for you give consideration.
Mr. Snell, may I make a comment? LICO CTC last year had a student from Montoursville who went to nationals. And it's to my knowledge that I think it was, we only paid 50% of the help, which some people may balk at it, some may not. I just personally feel some kind of a meeting of minds here.
Anybody else have any questions? This time, I'll open up public comment for a period of 30 minutes. At 3 minutes per individual. Please state your name and address.
Joshua Youngkin, 603 Broad Street. Also, you might know my website now, snellgate.com. Has good and bad of everything. But I just want to say, you're quick to spend and waste $200,000, but you won't give 3 kids who are sitting right here $6,000 to go to a FBLI thing. I mean, that's stupid. You are not for the kids. There are so many others that you have gone and talked about tonight. That is not for the kids. The stones. I bet you they don't care. They're going to go to college. They're going to probably not even come back to Montoursville because of the ideas of this. Let's keep those stones. I think, why not just get rid of those stones, sell them as commemorative items for everybody who wants them? I mean, it's ridiculous. And one last thing, everybody who has common sense or ran on that platform, use it and resign. Simple as that.
Mr. Snell, didn't we just approve $6,000 to send these students?
But you wasted $200,000.
They wasted $36 million.
name's Jack Callahan, and I live at 113 Arch Street. I want to ask Mr. Bowers a question. I'd like to know when the track will be open for people to walk on, and what hours will it be open for people?
Not up to me, Jack. First of all, there's a couple things here to consider. First of all, there's a construction project going on, so we got to figure out where that schedule is and when it's safe and to bring the people in. And then at some point, this board would have to have a facilities meeting and sit down and talk about the policies and procedures in place to do that. We have said from the get-go when this project was started that when it was done or when it was safe, that we would love to open our facilities more to the community. We showed that right off the bat with the
I read it in the paper.
Yeah, with the artificial turf.
Little Sox said they would do it.
We showed that right off the bat with the new turf, and we invited the youth football program to have their games there. It was a great community thing. We have shown that this project, one of the big reasons for this project is to have more community in our facilities. Not just athletic, the building as well.
Okay.
So that's coming. I would, stay tuned. This board has to talk about procedures and policies, and we have to get the green light from the contractors so we can have traffic in and out of that area.
Okay, I'm a little familiar with this because I used to do it where I